let's jump right into this. Imagine dragging yourself out of bed way before the sun even thinks about coming up, plunging straight into a literal tub of ice water and just grinding nonstop. Why? All because some internet wealth guru screamed that it's the absolute only way to become successful, right? We see these extreme, totally performative routines all over our social feeds every single day. But what actually happens when a normal, everyday person tries to pull off this 24-hour hustle? Well, in today's Explainer, we're unpacking a really fascinating experiment that put these massive claims to the test. And honestly, the results are going to shock you.
Wake up at 4 a.m., take an ice bath, get rich. Sounds simple, right? It's packaged and sold to us as this ultimate, guaranteed, bulletproof formula for financial independence. But as we start to really unpack the actual data behind all this toxic hustle culture advice, we're going to see that this formula isn't just flawed, it's actually actively working against both your health and your wallet.
So, the experiment kicks off with this incredibly grueling, frantic schedule that's perfectly designed to mimic the so-called influencer elite. Picture this. At 4 a.m. sharp, that dreadful alarm blasts. Then, before your brain has even registered that you're awake, boom, you're thrown into a freezing cold plunge at 4:30. And by 6 a.m., you're supposedly doing high-vibration manifestation journaling. I mean, you can practically feel the physical toll this demands before standard working hours have even started.
Now, to figure out if all this self-inflicted torture actually generates real wealth, or if it just generates a ton of fatigue, we really need to investigate the return on investment for 3 specific pillars of internet hustle culture. We're looking at the aggressively early wake-ups, the literal physiological shock of those daily cold plunges, and finally, the psychological trap of manifestation journaling, which, spoiler alert, usually just bleeds into the incredibly toxic habit of simply acting rich. Let's start with the 4 a.m. wake-up. Gurus absolutely promise that those extra hours alone in the dark will strap a literal rocket to your productivity, supposedly putting you miles ahead of everyone else. But the experiment revealed a pretty stark reality. Waking up at 4 a.m. doesn't magically create more energy. It literally just shifts your waking hours around. And the end result? A severe, completely unavoidable exhaustion crash that hits right around noon, absolutely destroying any productive focus you might have had for the rest of the day.
And then, oh man, there's the much-hyped ice bath. The internet loves to promise that shocking your system with freezing water is going to unlock this elite, genius-level mental clarity. But in practice, yeah, the primary outcome wasn't some brilliant business epiphany. It was honestly just a lingering, deeply uncomfortable distraction. Instead of plotting out a multi-million-dollar financial empire, the subject just spent the next entire hour shivering, desperately trying to get their core body temperature back to normal.
Finally, we hit manifestation journaling and that super insidious pressure to just act rich. The common advice implies that to attract wealth like a giant magnet, you have to act like you already have it, right? Buying those ridiculously expensive lattes, renting luxury cars for the weekend, or dressing the part just to get into the millionaire mindset. But here's the reality check. Doing all of this doesn't attract wealth at all. It literally just sets your actual hard-earned money on fire.
So by the time we reached the end of this 24-hour experiment, the only verifiable result was the subject feeling completely drained. We're talking physically, mentally, and financially exhausted. Surrounded by blaring alarms, melted ice, and a very quickly emptying wallet, this hustle culture formula didn't bring in a sudden magical influx of cash. It just created a massively heavy, totally unsustainable tax on both the body and the mind.
Which, brings us to a pretty profound question for this explainer. What if the fundamental premise of punishing yourself every single day isn't actually how wealth is built? For years, we've been conditioned to believe that if we aren't suffering, we aren't succeeding. But what if that's all just a trap literally designed just to sell you online courses? What if the real path to financial independence is actually quiet, calm, and doesn't require waging a daily war against your own biology?
Well, it's time to completely abandon that performative physical torture and instead look at the historically proven mechanics of real wealth. And honestly, this is where the data gets incredibly validating. The actual secret of everyday real-world millionaires isn't a 4 a.m. alarm clock or a trendy cold plunge. It's what we call the boring mathematical reality. Now, it's definitely not going to go viral on social media, but it is exactly how generational wealth has been steadily built for decades.
You see, true wealth building is deeply rooted in automated systems. The secret formula here is just 2 words: consistent and hands-off. You basically build your financial engine once, and then it does all the heavy lifting for you in the background. You absolutely do not need to physically exert yourself every single day to force your money to grow. It grows because the system is mathematically designed to do exactly that, even if you decide to sleep in until, 8 a.m. So instead of torturing yourself with ice baths, your actual productivity hacks are these profoundly boring yet wildly effective mathematical tools. We're talking about compound interest, which is basically the snowball effect of your money making its own money. Then there are index funds, which let you own a tiny, diversified piece of the entire stock market. And finally, system automation, which simply guarantees that you invest a portion of your paycheck before you ever even get the chance to spend it on trying to act rich.
Actually, do you know how many 4 a.m. alarms or daily manifestation journals are required to make compound interest work in your favor? Zero. Absolutely zero. Because once your automated investments are set up, the math simply does not care what time you wake up or how incredibly cold your morning shower is. It just compounds independently of your daily grind. That zero represents your ultimate freedom from toxic hustle culture.
When we track how this plays out over a 10-year span, it is honestly eye-opening. In year 1, sure, the daily hustler might look like they have a slight edge, but by year 5, the inevitable physical and emotional burnout causes all that effort to completely plummet. Meanwhile, our friend the boring math just steadily, quietly curves upward. By year 10, those automated systems have compounded exponentially, leaving the totally exhausted hustler eating their dust. Because human energy burns out, but math scales forever.
So, the ultimate takeaway you should grab from this is super simple. True financial independence is built on setting up reliable mathematical systems, not on copying the exhausting, performative routines of internet influencers. Trying to mimic the punishing lifestyles of fake billionaires is honestly just going to leave you tired and broke. The absolute smartest thing you can possibly do for your future self is to make growing your money as invisible, effortless, and frankly, as fundamentally boring as possible.
All right, so we've successfully dismantled the entire illusion of the 24-hour hustle. We know the real secret isn't in the daily struggle, it's in the systems. But, just knowing that you need automated math is really only the first step. The next logical phase of your financial journey is uncovering exactly how things like index funds actually operate behind the scenes. The real, life-changing math is out there waiting for you. So, here's the ultimate question. Are you ready to learn how the stock market actually works?